Anyone who's been following this channel for a while knows exactly where I stood. When the rumors started about Aaron Rodgers joining this team, I didn't hold back. I was skeptical, very skeptical, not because I didn't respect the guy, not because I didn't think he had the talent, but because I had 3 specific concerns that I couldn't ignore. And now, with training camp underway and the Rodgers era slowly beginning to take shape, I think it's time to revisit those concerns. But this time with fresh context. Because what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what we're feeling around this team right now, it might just be different than what any of us expected. So, let's go back to those 3 concerns. They were the foundation of my skepticism all off-season, and they can all be boiled down into 3 simple words, each starting with the same letter: priority, personality, and performance. 3 P's that summed up why I didn't buy into the hype at first, and maybe you didn't either. But here we are now, watching it unfold. And suddenly those P's are starting to take on new meaning. Let's start with priority. I mean, come on. We're talking about a guy who has already done it all. He's won a Super Bowl. He's taken home for MVP trophies. He's broken records. He's become a household name. He's been a face of the league. The guy hosted Jeopardy, for crying out loud. So when someone like that chooses to come to a team like this, in this specific phase of his career, at what feels like the final act of a Hall of Fame legacy, you have to wonder, why? What's left for him to prove? Why would this, of all things, be a priority for him? And sure, we'll never really know what's going on in Rodgers' head. We're not mind readers, but what we can do, what I've been doing, is watching him closely. Listening to every press conference, every on-field moment, every mic'd-up snippet. Paying attention to the tone, to the mannerisms, to the intensity in his eyes, because if you're paying attention, you start to see something real. Rodgers isn't just showing up to practice and jogging through the motions. He's not treating this like a farewell tour. He's locked in. And not just in a get my reps and go home kind of way. He's engaged with the playbook, with his teammates, with the entire energy of the camp, and that matters. That means something. It tells me that this isn't just a paycheck or a publicity stunt or some cushy way to ride off into the sunset. He's here to compete. He's here to build something. He's here, maybe, to win. There was one moment in particular that stuck with me. A simple handoff, nothing fancy. But for whatever reason, it didn't go the way it was supposed to. Maybe it was timing. Maybe it was communication. Whatever it was, Rodgers wasn't happy. And you could tell. He ripped his chin strap off with a snap, shook his head, clearly frustrated. And that right there, that's not the reaction of someone who's checked out. That's not the body language of a guy who's coasting. That's someone who cares. Someone who still expects excellence. Someone who demands more from himself and from everyone around him. You don't fake that kind of passion. You don't manufacture that kind of fire. That's authentic. That's legacy stuff. That's leadership. And it's not just that one play. It's how he talks to his teammates. I've seen him go over and have animated, focused conversations with young players like Broderick Jones. I've seen him get into it with Pat Freiermuth. Sometimes it's teaching, sometimes it's correcting, sometimes it's just flat out challenging them. And that, to me, is gold. That's exactly what you want from a quarterback stepping into a new locker room. Not someone who's hands-off or aloof, someone who's right in the middle of it, setting a tone. Which brings me to the second P, personality. Let's be honest. Here Aaron Rodgers is a complex dude. We all know it. He's had his controversies. He's had his moments. He's done things his own way, for better or worse. So naturally, one of the biggest questions when he arrived was, how is this personality going to fit into a locker room that's already got its own identity? How is Rodgers, with all of his Aaron Rodgers-ness, going to mesh with the culture here? I wasn't the only one wondering that. You were, too. A lot of people were. Is he going to act like a superstar above the team? Is he going to keep to himself? Is he going to brush off the younger players who could benefit from his knowledge? And here's the honest answer so far. No, he's not doing any of that. In fact, he's doing the opposite. The guy has a roommate in camp. He and DK Metcalf are rooming together. Not just that, they've become close friends over the summer. You hear them cracking jokes with each other, talking about sharing a bathroom, making fun of late-night trips to the toilet. Rodgers joked that if Metcalf has to pee at 3 a.m., he better not flush because it wakes him up, but if it's the other thing, go ahead. That's the kind of chemistry you can't fake. That's the vibe of a guy who's not isolating himself. That's someone who's part of the team, who's breaking the walls down and becoming one of the guys. And listen to how his teammates talk about him. Ben Skowronek said it best the other day. He said, "You think of him as this A-list celebrity, but when he's with us, he's just a guy." That's huge. That's not the reputation you bring in from a career of doing things your way. That's something you earn by showing up and being real. Even Mason Rudolph, who you might think could feel a little awkward about Rodgers stepping into the QB room, has nothing but good things to say. He talked about how Rodgers isn't just helping Will Howard, the new guy in the room, but also working with Mason himself. Not talking down to him, not acting like he knows it all, but actually asking questions, engaging, listening. That word kept coming up. Communication. He's sharing knowledge, trading ideas, having conversations that go both ways. That's rare. That's leadership without ego. That's culture building. And that matters just as much as any throw he'll ever make. Because quarterbacks don't just win with talent, they win with trust, with relationships, with presence. Rodgers is showing early signs that he's not here to float above the team, he's here to be part of it. And that, honestly, is a huge relief. Because you never really know with guys at that stage in their careers, but the third P is the one everyone really cares about: performance. Let's keep it real, they haven't even put the pads on yet. So yeah, it's early. We're not seeing full speed contact or real game situations, but even so, the flashes are already there. That's the thing, even in these lighter sessions. You can feel the talent, the arm, still electric, not electric. For his age, not electric considering the circumstances. I'm talking real, elite-level velocity. He's making throws that very few quarterbacks in the league can make. He's hitting windows that don't exist for most guys. And he's doing it with that same smooth delivery, that same confidence, that same effortless arm angle wizardry that made him a legend in Green Bay. The legs. Look, he's not 25 anymore. We know that. He's not going to be scrambling all over the place like he once did, but he doesn't need to. His game has never relied on blazing speed. It's been about control, precision, timing. And that hasn't gone anywhere. If anything, it's sharper now. And when you watch how the receivers react, how they adjust to his passes, how they seem to know that if they don't run the route perfectly, the ball is still coming and it's going to expose them. That's the kind of accountability a quarterback brings to the table. That's the kind of environment you want in your offense, when guys know that if they mess up, it's going to be obvious, not because the throw was off, but because the throw was so on point that it made their mistakes stand out. That kind of performance changes the entire feel of a unit. It raises the bar. It creates urgency. It demands excellence. And from what we've seen so far, Rodgers is bringing that to this team. 1 week. That's all it's been. 1 week plus some mini camp sessions. But man, if this is just the beginning, if this is just the early stage, then we might be witnessing something really special starting to take shape. The pads are about to go on. And when they do, everything changes. That's when the real evaluation begins. That's when you find out who's tough, who's ready, who's just surviving, and who's actually thriving. And that's when we'll start getting real answers about Aaron Rodgers' impact, not just in drills, not just in walk-throughs, but in live reps. And yeah, that matters. But here's the thing. Performance isn't just about the quarterback. It never is. It's about the guys around him too. And that brings us to another part of this conversation that's starting to heat up: the tight end room. There's something happening there. Something that might end up being way more important than people are giving it credit for. Because let's say this Rodgers thing really works, right? Let's say he's locked in, physically sharp, mentally all in. The next question becomes, who's he throwing to? Who are the guys that are going to be making plays with him? Not just benefiting from his talent, but actually becoming reliable weapons. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Pittsburgh is buzzing with speculation, and the NFL world may be on the brink of a seismic shift. Rumors are swirling that Tyreek Hill, one of the league's most electrifying wide receivers, could be heading to the Steel City in what insiders are already calling the biggest signing in Steelers history. While no official confirmation has been made, whispers from sources close to the situation suggest the franchise is pushing aggressively behind the scenes to make the deal happen. If true, the implications are monumental. Hill, known for his game-breaking speed and highlight reel plays, would bring a dynamic the Steelers haven't seen in years. The team has long been searching for that explosive weapon to elevate their offense, and Hill could be exactly what they need to reassert themselves as serious contenders in the AFC Steelers fans are cautiously optimistic. Pittsburgh has never been known for splashy free agent signings, choosing instead to build through the draft and player development. That's why the idea of landing a superstar like Hill feels almost surreal. Some believe this potential move signals a new era in Steelers management, more aggressive, more willing to gamble, and clearly intent on winning now. There's also plenty of intrigue surrounding how Hill would fit into the Steelers' current system. With rising talent at quarterback and a young core on offense, Hill's presence could accelerate their growth dramatically, but it raises questions. 2. Can the team's current structure support a high-profile figure like Hill? Will his style mesh with Pittsburgh's traditionally gritty, hard-nosed football identity still? The buzz continues to build. Social media is ablaze. Former players are weighing in, and fans are refreshing feeds waiting for any official word. Could this really be happening? Until there's confirmation, it remains in the realm of possibility, but it's one that has everyone talking. If the Steelers do pull this off, it won't just be a blockbuster. It'll be a bold statement to the rest of the league. Pittsburgh is back, and they're not playing it safe anymore. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.